Welcome to the Human Show. I'll skip this theme song today and start right in with things related to today's theme of Dreamworld. So this is the turnaround. The theme for today is Dreamworld, so I've invited someone with a big dream here for our city and our world. Will White, will you please come up here? And we're going to talk about your dream and you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Yeah, so you can invite up our other guests whenever you're ready.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to, say who I am. I'm William White. I'm basically, been in soul music in all my life. Spent a lot of time here in Madison and met a lot of great artists. And I think we're coming to a pinnacle point here where we're not going to be sustainable soul music as a genre that is separate and older than any other music that is played in America. We're not going to be able to support it, and that's really what this is about. This is not about me. It's not about, it's not about what hasn't been done or, feeling guilty. It's just about doing the right thing. Soul radio has been an integral part of the fabric of America, America's consciousness, America's awareness, America's message to the rest of the world. And I believe that it is seriously a black eye to a beautiful city to not have soul radio. We're the capital city of Wisconsin. And for us to be talking about diversity and inclusion and opportunity, and we don't have a soul radio station, our young people tell me all the time, I don't believe any of that, because they don't see any evidence of it. And so I think it's incumbent on us who know. And I'm going to call somebody up here who's experienced, like Stephanie's, like Dakota Cafe. Thank you guys for having me. So many wonderful musicians have come through here, but I really don't think that they're giving the credit that musicians should be getting from here. I believe that we have in Madison, I'm old enough to have seen this cycle. I believe, seriously, having seen it, we have enough talent to be one of the next major centers of type of music coming out of Madison. One of those things, is like Motown in Minneapolis with Prince and his, time and groups around him, is they had soul radio. There's not any, you look at Atlanta, you look at Chicago, you look at Detroit, any place that stars have developed to really affect music in a big way, soul radio has been an integral part of that. So none of those things could exist without soul radio, and I don't believe none of them will exist here. I think it's up to us just to do the right thing, and look at the numbers, look at the stats, look at the contribution of people who listen to soul. And it's easily, when you look at the statistics and numbers, there's inequities there that can't be ignored. So I'd like to invite also people out there who have the interest in soul music, in culture, in art, to come in and let's see how we can make this a viable fruition to bring soul radio to Madison, Wisconsin. It's easier than ever now. The internet will allow us to reach out to people in many different ways until this time that we've never had before. One of the stories that one of the Scots wanted to tell is being someplace and hearing the Temptations on the radio. And I can imagine the first time you heard the Temptations on the radio was like, it was like ground shifting stuff, because Motown was such a juggernaut. And it not only was a juggernaut here, it was a juggernaut around the world. And it changed musicians like the Rolling Stones and Eric Clapton and, all of these other guys who heard it, Sting and just a number of guys. So, on the anniversary, of a lot of things that have happened really, really good here, this is one that needs to be addressed. And so I'm asking some of the radio station heads and some of the people who are involved in the Wisconsin Broadcasting Association, the Urban League, other organizations, the United Way. I'm just saying, let's look at the statistics, of how this is done and how this is continued not to be done. At that point, Scott, I wish you'd come up and give us a little history about your relationship with soul.
Well, Scott's coming up. Will you tell us about your background, like your life and your connection with soul music, how that became so strong?
Well, soul has been in my family like all my life. My mother and them came from New Orleans, and as a child going back to New Orleans, or the city of New Orleans from Chicago, and going back there, there's no way you can escape. There it permeates the air. It permeates the culture. Whether you listen to rock or whether you listen to country. Soul is an integral part of those things. Soul radio, in my experience with soul, has led me to many other things like jazz and country and southern Delta soul and blues and so I'm really seriously just the makeup of all of those things. My own experience is one that I have given my life to living for better. One of the things is this city. I really believe in this city. I really believe in the potential of it to be a place where we can expand good. And so basically that's what I am and that's who I am.
Awesome. And the city is going to take some active steps toward making people feel comfortable of all backgrounds, races. It's something that the city needs to actively work on. A soul radio station could really help. Yeah,
I agree. And I just believe it's about the numbers. I'm not even really. The music will take care of itself. The music will survive us, seriously. But what won't survive us is young people having an opportunity to do what others have, in other places. Because I see a lot of talent around here. I'm like really serious talent because I was there also in Minneapolis in those early 80s where that scene was developing, and I believe that we have just as much talent in Madison as they had there. The one thing that we're missing is soul radio. What do you think?
I'm all for soul radio. It's my favorite music, so I would listen to that all day long.
No, you wouldn't.
1972 was my first exposure to soul music. I was 12 years old. I lived in Racine, Wisconsin. I was laying in my bed in the dark, fiddling with the dial on my FM radio, and on came, for the first time, I hearing the beginning of Papa Was a Rolling Stone by the Temptations. That bass groove and those trumpets with the delay on it, it just took me someplace in my imagination easily.
Which was that bass groove was unheard of until that point. I mean, on popular radio.
It was also the long version, because back then FM disc jockeys played what they wanted to on the radio. It wasn't formatted.
Yeah.
So it was, I think the song goes on for 3 minutes or so before vocals start. It really transported me. So yeah, the Temptations and then the OJs.
Were you a musician then when you heard
I
that?
was just starting to play in bands at that time, just beginning to play keyboards in my junior high school band.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that was something, you know what I mean, to be one of the, and I've had that experience too, you know, to wake up late at night and hear something like the OJs, you know, Family Reunion, or, you know, Ship Ahoy, you know, something that would not have made me think of,
Yep.
you know, a broader awareness of the world had I not heard it in the music, you know, and I think that's what's missing with soul radio is that, you know, we don't expand our world because we don't have a foundation. So, you know, like I said, you know, I'd like you to kind of just talk about that, you know what I mean, because you've been here playing, you know, for a while now, and you're an excellent musician and an excellent ambassador to the music. I see that you know, you give your best everywhere you go, you know, and you try to keep it alive. Stephanie, certainly Dakota. I mean, this is an historical place that we sit in right now, Dakota Cafe. I mean, you just think about how long it took to get a real soul jazz. You know, with all of the great artists that have come through here, the Miles Davises, and let me give you my Temptation story. In 1988, I think, they had a reunion, and they came here. I think they were at the Orpheum, or whatever was across the street from the Orpheum, because I don't think the Overture was built yet. And they had a room over at the concourse. I think it might have been the Hilton then, but the concourse. And so, you know, and so I had an after set after their thing, and I told everybody the Temptations would be there. But I was really just handing out Temptation albums in a raffle. But but some guys I knew, right, who were partying with them, brought them through. You know, they pulled up in the stretch and they came in, you know what I mean? Not all of them, I think it was Eddie, and I think David, and the other guy that took over for David after sort of David left, I forget his name, Dennis Evans. And yeah, it was one of the most spectacular times that I've ever experienced, you know, and few people, you know, kind of know they came through, you know, and that's what kind of people these were, though. You know, these people were guys that, you know, they reached out for the common person, and I think that's what radio does. It makes it, you know, available to everybody.
I agree. It was not only the groove that hooked me, it was the vocals, how emotional the singing was, and the soul songs, and then how extraordinary the harmonies were. How good the voices were in groups like the Four Tops, the Temptations, the OJs, the Ohio Players, the Spinners.
They worked for it, didn't they?
Yeah.
They didn't have it easy, did they? I listened to Stephanie overdubbing herself on some of the songs that she's written, right? And it reminded me of the story about Marvin Gaye. This was like, you know, just before the tumultuous times of his life. But he was doing I Want You, the album. And, you know, he was having some drug problems and whatnot. And him and Berry Gordy also were having some problems because Berry Gordy wanted Marvin to stay away from all of the political stuff, you know what I mean? And Marvin, like, and Stevie, you know, they were big enough to say, no, you know, we're going to sing what we feel, you know. And so, you know, out of that came Mercy, Mercy Me, and, you know, the song about the environment. But what I was thinking about when I was listening to that overdub was that they say this guy, Marvin Gaye, locked himself up in the studio for like a month by himself played every instrument. If you ever listen to what's going on, all those voices in the background are his.
Wow.
All of them. You know, and I wonder how hard that was to do stuff in the day of analog. I mean, you know, we can kind of, you know, push buttons now and, you know, bring it back. But you were talking about the harmonies and whatnot. You know, there were no do-overs.
You had to actually be able to do it. You had to be talented. You had to have the real stuff. And it shows. Those recordings are timeless. Now, they're still amazing and gorgeous and well-produced.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to, you know, that I Want You, you know, and you're like, how is this one guy making all of this noise? You know what I mean? But the OJs were like that, too. The OJs used to come on stage with 3 guys and sound like a race riot. I'm like, you know, what's going on, you know? And I think it's just that passion and just that seed for soul that is, you know, I think missing in a lot of, I don't want to, you know, get judgmental, because I don't want anybody coming at me, because this is not about what I think. This is really just about the statistics, the numbers, and the need in the future to look at a different way of funding soul radio here in Madison. And I'm just reaching out and asking anybody who wants to be here to talk about it, their experience, and certainly people who can help us, you know, get the numbers and the statistics and the records that we need to make a case that we have been seriously underfunded and underlooked. You know, here in Madison, from the traditional, I mean, I don't even think the mamas really have a soul, you know, award.
Category.
Yeah, I don't even think they have one. And that's kind of, you know, that's the subtlety though of you know, and I'm, you know, the mamas are great, don't get me wrong. The people are great there. It's not about them. It's not about anybody that has been here. It's about the awakening of now. That's all. You know, it's not, you know, people shouldn't, you know, point fingers and find fault. You know, really, it's just a time for expansion and expression. And, you know, I think, you know, your story, you know what I mean, about, you know, about that night, you know what I mean, Kid and Racine, and how that has transported you, you know, all your life, and that you remember that is the genesis, you know, of building community, caring. You know, we talk about it, you know, but what do we do about it? I mean, you know, we see people, you know, obviously suffering, you know, these are hard times, but I've seen people suffer before, you know, like this. You know, I've seen it. You know, I've seen people be ravaged by wars, and you know, what soul did was lift people out of that. You know, I mean, we don't have to talk about, you know, the music of the Vietnam War, you know, without, you know, really talking about soul and just how much of an educational tool, especially to the minority community, because they really didn't have access, you know, in the late 60s and 70s to information like, you know, other people had, you know, and so radio was like, and now in the age of 5G, we'll be able to, I've got a friend in London, he runs Best Smooth Jazz over there, and you know, his stuff goes around the world now, you know, and you know, we can't let corporate, I don't want to use the word greed. Should I use the word greed?
Sure.
Twice.
Greed, I got it. We can't let corporate greed, you know, sully the spirit, you know, of a lot of young people like Gabe and, you know what I mean, Adam, you know, who's just walked out the door, who's a terrific musician. And we need to build equitable and a strong, you know, diverse understanding of who's here and what's contributed. My main thing is that for the last 40 years, and I'm only going back 40 years, the WBA has been on since 1959, I think, something like that. And they haven't had a member who was even a minority until just recently. So my thing is, sometimes people don't know. You know, it's not always born out of, you know, racism or prejudice, or sometimes people just don't know. And so that moment of awakening that you had listening to the Temptations or anybody else has when something soulful touches them, you know, there was a story about one of the Cool in the Gang founding members just passing away the other day. And I was thinking of how they cut their teeth on jazz. And if I didn't have older uncles, or older guys like Shahana, I would have never known that, because I came along in the time where they were doing like, Cherish the Day and, songs people play at the high school thing, But I went back and I checked out some of their stuff, and these were just like amazing musicians, just individual. This guy that just passed, I wrote about it and I said that, other than, somebody named Aretha, Stevie, or Patty, I can't think of a group with a longer lineage in soul than Cool in the Gang, maybe Earth, Wind and Fire. I can't, so it's important that we contribute to young people. And then there's the jobs. There's just, hundreds of thousands of jobs in radio that I think that people don't really, young people especially, don't get a chance to even, hear about or see, because it's more behind the scenes of, the music part.
What do you need to get your soul station going?
I think what it's going to have to take is a consensus by the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association, the county government, the city government, to look at the statistics, and the state government, because every time that the state advertises a job on radio or any other thing on radio, that's you guys' tax dollars. So I think that it's going to take a consensus of those things in the public, and to find a place for it, to find a building. Somebody asked me what is my idea, what does it look like physically, tangibly, what does diversity and opportunity and those things look like, because they're talked about so much. I don't really think that people really do understand, other than the getting along part. I think people are like, let's all get along type of thing. But other than that, I don't think people really know what that is. And I think that we can magnify that. I think by magnify, you asked me what can we do, I think we can magnify the things that have worked, and have brought, a tremendous amount of awareness and consciousness. And I think it's going to take, that kind of cooperative, spirit, and the stats and numbers. They shouldn't be this hard to get. This is public, this is public money. This is, when they throw something back here in the park or on the roof, I like dancing on the roof sometimes, but I don't want to dance on the roof all the time, every year, it was fine for a little while, We need things that are sustainable and growing and can take care of themselves. One of the things that soul radio can do is take care of itself. So I guess, the simple answer is they're going to need to be, a coming together and looking at these numbers and then making an appropriate effort to fund soul radio in Madison. And, get the equipment and a building, or a space to do it out of. This is not hard in the days of the internet. This is pretty, it's pretty routine stuff, and there's tremendous talent in this town. There's some people that are, doing their own radios, situations. Some of them are hip hop, Radio 22, Mad Lit, Rob D's program, Mad Lit, Opal, Sabrina Madison. There are tremendous young people out here. Brandy, hi Brandy. We need you guys. We need you young people to step up and say, hey, we need an accounting, of these numbers and these statistics so that we can sit down and look at them and see how we can better put them to use in the future. I think that's what we need to create soul radio.
One of the things